Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I want to talk to you about Glenmorangie's Nectar D'Or. Now this is a exciting whiskey for me because it's something a bit different than what I've been covering lately. I've been doing a lot of bourbons, a lot of Irish. I haven't done a Scotch in a little while, but more so I haven't done a Scotch like this in a while. And this Scotch is just totally like candy. It's like a dessert whiskey. This is totally what I would consider it. Given it's 9:30 at night, I think I'm ready for a dessert, but this is a great one to give to somebody who is newer to drinking whiskey. In fact, I've used this a couple of times at whiskey tastings for people who were of all variety of experience. So it went over very well those times. Actually, many people picked it as their favorite one of the night. That being said, this is only 46% ABV and it's very easy to attain. So it's easy to find, it's good for a beginner. But let's talk about the whiskey. Glenmorangie was founded in 1843 by William Matheson in the Highlands of Scotland. It was opened as a brewery and then just kind of kept that way for a little while, not super long, because eventually they became a distillery. And Glenmorangie itself actually means Vale of Tranquility or Vale of Big Meadows. So it sounds like the perfect place to have a distillery. And just like a lot of other distilleries, Scottish distilleries, it shut down in the 30s and 40s due to the war or just whatever else. However, a lot of Scottish distilleries stayed closed for 50, 60 years. This one reopened in 1948, so it was only closed for about 20 years. Now, there's something on the label that I want to point out, and I've pointed this out in other videos, but there's a part here that says crafted by the 16 men of Tain. Now, this is a reference to the 16 people that used to run the entire distillery, and that number's closer to 24 now. However, they left that on the label. Another cool thing I learned was that they actually Glenmorangie owns a forest in Missouri, and they sell the wood to Jack Daniels, and then that becomes bourbon barrels, right? And then when they're done with them, they send them back up to Glenmorangie, which now gives them their ex-bourbon barrels. So let's talk about this whiskey. Nectar D'Or means golden nectar, and that's kind of a perfect name for this whiskey. If you look at the color here, and then you consider the packaging and the marketing, everything about this, it's, especially when you consider the flavor too, like they nailed the marketing on this. I just couldn't be more impressed with whoever came up with that. But it is a 12-year-old whiskey. However, 10 of those years are spent in ex-bourbon barrels, like I mentioned from JD, and also 2 years are from barriques from Sauternes. Now, Sauternes is a French sweet wine, which is made from Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, and Muscadel grapes. And those Muscadel grapes are infected with this thing. I don't want to say infected, but it is. It's got a type of rot called Botrytis cinerea, but basically this is called noble rot. And what it does is it rots the grapes, and then they kind of shrivel a bit, but it makes them sweeter. So a lot of your dessert wines are going to be sweet. So let's see if it is. Let's go into the nosing. A few things that are very obvious to me. So if you're doing this along with me, which by the way, I really hope that you are, that was always the goal of this channel, is have you drink along with me. So if you have a bottle of this, go grab it, pause the episode, go get it. It's a little different doing an episode like this than like watching a short where people just give you quick information, which is great, but this is about enjoying it. So I hope you're enjoying with me. So what I get here is lemon for sure, honey, apricot. Actually get lime, which is a little strange, getting lemon and lime in the same whiskey. I don't know that I've ever had that happen actually on this channel. The nose does start to fade a little while. As you saw, this was on the table and I'm filming, so it's been here probably about a half hour or so. And the nose is still fairly pungent to the point where I can tell how sweet and delicious this is, but it does lose a little bit of that over time. So just keep that in mind. You want to probably drink this one pretty close out of the bottle, especially if you're going to be nosing it. There's a very sweet bit here that's hard to put my finger on as far as what I would compare it to, but this is very clearly coming from that Sauternes wine. It's exactly what I would describe like a Moscato, or wine is not my forte, but some sort of dessert wine. I should start buying wine and, you know, make the Whiskey Dictionary buy it for me. It's a business expense. Comment with your wine suggestions. That'd be an interesting one. Dessert wines, because my wife will drink it too. That'd be cool. All right, as far as the nose goes, the biggest things that you're really getting here, other than those details I gave you, like the main thing you're smelling is how sweet and just refreshing this is gonna be. It would be the equivalent of smelling lemonade and just knowing what that's gonna do when you finally drink it. All right, let's have a taste. Cheers. Okay, so there's a lot going on here on the taste. This is an interesting one. I'll have to do some research, and I'll put it up here if I can even find it, but I'm gonna guess this one came out before A Tale of Cake. However, I would be willing to wager that this whiskey was the inspiration for even doing the Tale of Whatever series, because when I drink this, I get a lot that is similar to Tale of Cake. It's so sweet and dessert-like. It reminds me of being like in a bakery where there's, you know, all kinds of delicious things in front of me. It's mouth-wateringly good as you're drinking it, which is really good. Some of the more specific flavors are lemon, honey, of course, those are easy, vanilla, apricot. The apricot is coming through on the taste here. There's something a little bit heavier in here, and I tasted it mostly on that first sip, and it's giving a lot of, if it was a bourbon, I would refer to it as tannins or maybe oak, but at the age that this sits in the bourbon barrels, I'm not convinced that's what it is. I think it is, I'm still going to call it that because it's just a very tannic kind of flavor that coats the tongue. It almost gives that drying sensation, and you know, I mean, it's just kind of what you get in a higher proof ABV bourbon. So interesting. There's a creamy texture here as well. The texture is always something to consider, right? Is it watery? Because I always call it out when it's watery, usually as a negative. Or I call it out when it's like oily, if it's like an Isla or something like that. This one's right down the middle. It is viscous enough to fully coat your tongue and stay in your mouth and provide a decent finish. I wouldn't say it's like the world's longest finish or like really even just, it's more of a ghost of the whiskey after you drink it. It's still there, but it doesn't taste like that sip. It tastes like that tannicness. So very interesting. This whiskey, let's kind of go overall. In my opinion, I'll just tell you, like, this one is a buy it to me. It's about $70 to $75 in my area, so hopefully you can get a little cheaper than that. But to me, I think if you've never tried this one, this is a great expression from Glenmorangie and really shows how they are thinking about recreating flavors rather than making a whiskey and then just being like, that tastes good. They specifically were talking about how they wanted to recreate the flavor of a French cafe or a French bakery. And I see that a lot in the whole Tale of series, where they were going for a very specific flavor to represent a memory. And to my knowledge, this is the first time that they were really doing that. Maybe with the Signet, I'm not sure, but this one for sure is the first one I can really say they nailed a thought or a memory. And I just think that they did a wonderful job on this. So this one would definitely be a buy it from me. I think you should have this on your shelf, maybe not stock it. Although I probably will buy a second bottle of this, but I don't see myself 10 years from now still having a bottle of this around because I think that there's other stuff to buy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you guys are enjoying the content, and I hope that you have a great rest of your night. Cheers. Oh, thank my patrons. These guys work hard. All right. They're awesome. All right. Cheers, everybody.